the reason why sometimes we call it woo-woo, because it's not woo-woo, is because we don't understand the science behind it. But I will say, everyone, just having intuition, just letting it free-flowing out here isn't going to do anything for you. You have to know how to filter that into powerful decision and streamline it, in this case, into your business or in other areas of your life. So you got to combine, we are spiritual beings living in physical bodies. Intuition needs to be pulled in so we can actively and proactively use those intuitive responses and actually correlate it to making powerful moves in our business. So it is important that we don't just like pull it out here in this woo-woo world. It's science, and when you know how to, which we can go into, how to tap into it and move it into your business, it's going to accelerate your business further than if you just do things on paper.
Let me invite you to sit back, drop your jaw, tongue, and shoulders. Take a deep breath, and if you wish, close your eyes for a moment. In a few seconds, you just jump from your head to your heart, opening up to receive even more value and fulfillment out of your business and life. And today's episode. I'm your host, Nico van de Venne, confidant to successful CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs who are striving to achieve everlasting fulfillment. Welcome to the Everlasting Podcast with our next guest, Jennifer Watson. I will shortly explain to everybody who Jennifer Watson is, and then I will launch her straight into our podcast. So, Jennifer is focused on shifting our mental and emotional states into our highest self, no matter the environment, and creating healthy, high performance. I love that. She's also loves to talk about intuition and decision making, communication as a business leader. Welcome, Jennifer, to the podcast. I am so excited to speak to you, and a big shout out to Ben Albert, who connected us.
Yes, Nico, I'm so excited to be here and just pour into your community. And I agree, it's always 1 degree of separation, like draws like. And I'm so honored that Ben connected us. And I'm ready to just drop in and really provide value to your amazing community.
Cool, great. Thank you very much for your time, in any case. So, big subject, intuition. Shoot, what's the story? Because that's an amazing start of the day,
Yeah.
especially for you. It's 8 o'clock at your place.
Absolutely. It's really interesting, Nico, because a lot of us, we think of intuition as this woo woo kind of esoteric thought that, we think we all kind of have it. And those of us that think we have it, we're not sure always how to fan it or deepen into it. Or those that don't quite believe in it think it's only woo woo, and the truth is there's a lot of science behind intuition. So even though we consider it more what I call the right brain, more in our creative zone, more in our feminine energy space, it is absolutely within our body. And we can use it to help us guide in more structural to-do list frameworks for the day. And I always like to start out with the science, you guys, because there are different aspects that they have found that are activated in our body and our brain when we're utilizing intuition over looking at something on paper as the right decision, the right choice or not. It lives in our heart. It lives in our gut. It also lives in the anterior insula of our brain. And it's a way for us to tap into our unique, each of us, our unique purpose and divine being, and make our time here on earth more of an expansive connection, because our intuition ultimately with those areas I just mentioned is kind of like the radar or the antennas to the world to bring in the people, places, and opportunities that will fan your unique expression of your purpose and your mission, why you're here on this earth. It can make things really easy if you know how to activate yours, which we can go into, how to tap into it in any environment. It'll help you with decision making. It'll help you communicate. I talk a lot about not only intuitive decision making, but intuitive communication, knowing when to say, what to say, and how to say that. That's going to help you in your sales calls. It's going to help you in your team management. It's going to help you have more energy during your day instead of sitting. How many of us sit back and forth, like vacillating on how should we say this, or is this decision right or wrong? It creates a lot of low energy because we're always giving energy to not divinely making a choice or making communication from our intuitive self. So there is the science behind it. It lives within each of us. How we express it and activate it is unique in each of us, but it's something I teach in our program that works so well with the frameworks that you have in your program, with your frameworks you have in your business. And when you tie both intuitive decision making and framework decision making, your left and right brain together, you become
Hmm.
unstoppable, not just in your business, but in your life. And you can feel in vitality and high energy doing it. Intuition allows you to do that. So that's a little bit of kind of start with, what intuition actually is living us from a science base. But for those of us from a basic level, intuition, just because you know, just because you know. We call
Yeah.
it the gut instinct. We call it the sixth sense. There's, different ways of defining it. But at the end of the day, it's your, again, unique radar intuition to tell you what to do during your day. And when you learn to tap into it throughout your day, and I know we're talking a lot about business today, but in any area of your life, you become unstoppable because you're making decisions that are aligned with you. And when they're aligned with you, that's the full creation of why you're here. And we get the best version of you to contribute to the world.
Wow, that's a beautiful approach to combine, the real rational world with the woo woo world,
Yeah.
as they might call it. And indeed, absolutely, these days it's there's no difference anymore. And if it's privately, business wise, or any other in communities or whatever, it is something that's there. It's been there for gazillion years, to
Yeah.
say.
And there's a lot of business owners. I mean, if you look at some of the people like Warren Buffett, Oprah
Hmm.
Winfrey, like some of the ones that all of us as leaders have high respect for as business leaders and influencers. And they've been interviewed many times on what they would consider the top 10 skills of leadership. And they
Yeah.
all say intuition is one of them, that many of them have looked at intuition and used intuition for big decisions, like on huge
Mhm.
money investments. And they've sometimes gone against what was on paper, partially because they know, you guys, the gift of intuition, that it's never right if you know how to tap into it. So,
Yeah.
all of us at the end of the day truly want it. And the reason why sometimes we call it woo woo, because it's not woo woo, is because we don't understand the science behind it. But I will
Yeah.
say, everyone, just having intuition and just letting it free flowing out here isn't going to do anything for you. You have to
Mhm.
know how to filter that into powerful decision and streamline it, in this case, into your business or in other areas of your life. So you got to combine. We are spiritual beings living in
Mhm.
physical bodies. And intuition needs to be pulled in so we can actively and proactively use those intuitive responses and actually correlate it to making powerful moves in our business. So it is important that we don't just like pull it out here in this woo woo world. It's science, and when you know how to, which we can go into, how to tap into it and move it into your business, it's going to accelerate your business further than if you just do things on paper. I see this all the time, you guys. I work with amazing business leaders that have a lot of amazing systems that are necessary,
Yeah.
frameworks, and a business plan. But when they pull in the intuitive piece, they accelerate beyond what other people do. And I
Mhm.
talk a lot about the top 10 leadership traits that I believe are necessary post 2020. And with the acceleration of AI and all these other services, you have to be in a space that you know how to move quickly. And
Mhm.
intuition can allow you to do that. And actually, intuition works really well with AI. You guys,
Yeah.
it
Oh,
really does. So know that you
okay.
have to be in.
That I would love to go into that part, because that's something I haven't heard before. Intuition and AI. Okay. So
Yeah, well, like I said, intuition by itself is not going to do anything for you guys, right?
yeah, yeah, that's
And I want to be really clear on that. It's not just this use it when you want. It's such a powerful tool. So first and foremost, I'm going to encourage and invite all of you in to understanding intuition without using the structure, the systems, the other left brain of us that is more the black and white is not going to work well. So just by understanding that, you're going to be able to go into this next step of what intuition means in connection to the new world we live in, including AI. Intuition is not separate from being in AI, high strategy, business leadership world. Shifting through that, opening your eyes to there's a relationship there is going to help you first. So I'm always big into first look at what you think the relationship is there. When you start separating is when there's going to be resistance and using it one time over here and not over here. If you start seeing they can balance each other, that's
Mhm.
important, you guys. I know I'm emphasizing that a lot, but really
Yeah.
rearranging what your relationship is into intuition and how it can actually start moving into a space of your business and high technology that we have in this era, including AI. When I look at intuition in AI, let's use Chat GPT. Let's say you're making content for your website or content for a post,
Mhm.
or you're looking at, getting ready for a speech. You guys, I'm a speaker. and you're
Yeah.
looking at, you want to create content for the speech. You may put in what you want the three principles to be in the speech, or what you want the content to be in the speech, and you're going to put that into Chat GPT, right?
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
comes out with content for you. Remember, you guys, whatever it is, for content for a speech, content for a post, content for what you
Hmm.
want for your program. Let's say it comes out with whatever it says, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Then you get to go through the content with your intuition and say what feels right to have in this content and what isn't me, what
Yeah.
doesn't feel right. This is where our higher level intuition gets to tweak very quickly, where it now becomes your words powerfully. I've done that before, you guys, where I go through the content then after AI and I go, not my word, not my sentence, move that out, pull this in.
Uh-huh.
And then it now becomes this refreshing space of you. So you've saved time, right? With
Uh-huh.
Chat GPT or AI, but now you come in from behind with your intuition and what words, what principles, what paragraphs are actually aligned with how you would say it, aligned with
Yeah.
what you think is priority. And that's where now it becomes you versus
Hmm.
what's thrown out there. This is why I always say, you guys, intuition by itself, Chat GPT, AI by itself will never work. When you combine the two, that's just one example. It's
Hmm.
going to
Hmm.
help you. But I think a bigger question that I always say, Nico, to start with is actually, how do you tap into intuition?
Yeah.
I'm telling
That's a
you,
good one.
you can use it in this fast paced technology, but a lot of people think that they know, but they don't know. And there's a huge, way of kind of starting to tap into that. I teach it a lot. I have a 7 levels intuitive mastery that I take people through in my program. I'd
Okay.
be happy to share with you guys tools to kind of start getting into the water a little bit so you can learn to trust me
Yeah.
a little bit more.
Yeah. Cool. Cool. No, that sounds great. Yeah. Well, I can imagine what you're saying about creating your texts in ChatGPT. I do it all the time. I also have another tool that's called Designer, the double R.
Yeah,
I think it's the Designer Pro or something.
yeah,
And this is a tool that you use where you put in a subject and it actually writes a complete book for you,
yeah,
like 20 pages long.
yeah,
But if you would just copy paste that into a certain design and just send it out into the world, you'll read right away because the first sentence is always in this quick bustling
yeah,
world. That's one of the first things I always read from ChatGPT is like, yeah, the world's bustling. I know, but don't put that sentence in there because we know it's you.
yeah,
But in any case, what I found is I just print it out and I hover my hand over the text, and then I'll say, I kind of feel the moment where I'm like, yeah, this is gonna be good. This is a good basis to start from.
yeah,
It's the same thing with a copywriter. They start reading it and they start analyzing the text, but then they, like you say, they go into rational
yeah,
analyzing.
yeah.
And then if you talk about what you're going into right now, I think that's an amazing approach, especially when it comes down to leadership as well, because these tools are out there and we're not going to be able to avoid them
Right,
anymore.
right.
Younger people, they switch to it really easy. We've just started to learn to use it, but they're gone with it. My kids are already using it. Homework.
Yeah.
A teacher has a hard time to find out how they're gonna create homework because these kids they use it. It's the same way that we started using Google to
Well,
help us in our job.
and that's why, there, what you just said, for one, I mean, this is what, humans trump AI. I will say that every day of the week and
Hmm.
twice on Sunday. I remember I was in
Okay.
a car once and it, was that autopilot where if it sees a line and it veers over for you, well, it
Hmm.
almost put me into a brick wall because it's an old line. And so I had to
Oh,
capture and override the system. You guys,
yeah.
there's plenty of examples like that. This is why I will always say, no matter how progressed in technology we get, number one, your intuition is brilliant for you. It will always take it the next level, whether it be driving a car, whether it be creating content. You always need to do that. You guys
Mhm.
also too. We got to be really careful being on our technology, our phone all the time. It's literally wiring our brain where we're
Yeah.
losing some of these creative, intuitive pieces. You guys, I want you to hear this. I really
Mhm.
want you to feel what I just said. I believe in technology. There's so many benefits to it. But when we start just only relying on it and not sparkling and peppering in our humanism, not only does the quality go down, it's not you. We just talked
Yeah.
about that. But number two, and actually more importantly, we're showing shifts in the brain that our brains are becoming more robotic. This is true. You guys, our creative
Yeah.
zones are going down in kids. They're at a stage where they're in it, like you said, Nico, where their
Mhm.
brain is developing. Okay. And they're only getting IT and tech and AI, and we're losing the creative zone of the brain. We're losing happy pills, the serotonin pills that come from creating because we get excited when we're
Mhm.
mastering something. You guys, this is real stuff. I really want
Yeah.
you to get this. We have to, as parents, make sure that yes, we're allowing kids to integrate the new technologies out there, but have time where they're disconnecting, going into nature, coming up and writing a story themselves so they can amp up that other area. We as adults have a little bit more traction because we weren't inbred in that. But at the same time, we're even getting imprinted in that. We need to remind ourselves the brilliance of being human in our
Mhm.
creative zone, our decision making zone, our forethought zone. If we don't tap into it, it's just like anything, you guys. It's like when we say work out or not, if you don't use it, you lose it. And you guys, our brains are becoming more robotic and we're losing parts of humanism that create actually
Mm.
brilliant content, brilliant decision making. So I'm going to encourage and challenge all of you to make sure that you're always doing this is such an important topic, whether we're talking about intuition, other human brilliant aspects, how we integrate AI with humanism. And it is
Mhm.
possible. We have to be proactive about it because we're so inundated now with always picking up our phone. But I'm going to encourage you guys, and we can again go into how to fan intuition, but one of them is get off your freaking phone. Get off the computer, get out of chat GPT throughout your day so we can start expanding other areas of being human and the brilliance of it that can integrate then when you step into technology such as AI and chat GPT. When you balance the two of them, when you
Mhm.
marry the two of them, you get unstoppable success. As far as intuition, you guys, I really do want to step into that. A lot of people are like, well, tell us, how do we start doing that? If you
Mhm.
haven't utilized it for a while, no matter if your listeners have, I feel I'm pretty good intuition. This is going to help you. What I'm going to say, if you're like, I don't know much about it, but I kind of believe in it, this is going to
Mhm.
help you. If you're like, no, I don't, this is also going to make you start being aware of looking at it. Okay. Intuition is unique in each of us, how we feel it and how we describe it, because I'm
Mhm.
different than you, Nico, and you're different than the next person, but it still lives within each of us, as I said, with the science. When you want to start tapping into it more and then start moving it into your business, like working with ChatGPT or making better decisions or wanting to communicate better, knowing what to say, when to
Mhm.
say, don't worry about that yet. If you're just new to this, what you can start doing is looking at things that are easy decisions for you. So I always say,
Mhm.
going to the grocery store, walk around the grocery store. What sounds good for you to get that day for lunch or dinner? And I don't mean
Mm.
like getting ho-hos. I mean like something that you're going to make for dinner. Like, why am I drawn to wanting to get that colorful orange? Why am
Mhm.
I drawn to get that beautiful steak? That will start allowing you to start feeling inside what sounds good and what it feels like inside you when you say that. I know that sounds
Mhm.
really simple, you guys, but starting with some simple thing like getting food or making a choice for the morning that's not a tough decision, but going with why does that quote feel good to do it?
Yeah.
I feel like having the cup of coffee this morning. I feel like working out this morning. Hey, I feel like picking up that old book that I haven't
Mhm.
read in a while. Then you go back to where that feels in your body and describing it and getting used to that intuitive sense going, yes, I want to do that. So
Mhm.
starting with basic, very basic choices you make during the day, but being aware of what you feel in the body when you're like, for some reason that feels good to do. Right there,
Mhm.
you're gonna start becoming aware of your intuition like a little butterfly, you guys. It's not forcible. It lives in our feminine space of these areas
Mhm.
we're talking about in your body. It's a light energy. So it's not gonna force and be like blaring lights like this is the answer. It's gonna say,
Yeah.
gentle stuff to you. So starting with really basic decisions or basic things in your life that feel easy and then connecting it to what you feel in your body. And then just getting on the mat with that every day. And then what happens, I start then working with people on deeper level of intuition and going into more, I will say, more challenging decision making or challenging communication, but starting with something basic is
Mhm.
going to be helpful. The second thing I would tell people to do besides doing something basic, get on the mat and just connecting it to how it feels in your body, going into what I just said, nature, unplugging from your phones. Your intuition is going to be very hard to want to pull in when you're constantly in that left brain technology. Like I said, it's squeezing out that human characteristic. So whether it be going out in nature, working out, doing your meditation, unplugging, just an activity that feels good to you, but unplugging from your phone will
Mhm.
allow you, among other things, everyone, other brilliant human aspects of you, forethought,
Mhm.
and some other things that will come up that make you human, that make you higher level than just a computer by itself. Okay.
Mhm. Mhm.
This will also help with that. But since we're speaking about intuition, just going in nature, doing something that you enjoy, that's joyful or peaceful, and doing things that make you feel calm and anchored and centered, painting, right? Like that's going to start pulling out the creative zone of your brain that's also connected to intuition. So, doing things like that, that aren't even necessarily that you're making a decision, will start making you start realizing, oh, that intuition thing is bringing in this idea. Because intuition isn't just about decision making, it's about it brings in ideas and it's asking you to respond to the idea. It's asking you
Yeah.
to respond to something. Does that make sense? So
Mhm.
those are two things. I go a lot deeper in my program of how to start navigating that with tougher conversations and as you expand your business. But you guys just getting on the mat and knowing what it feels like in your body with basic decisions and then doing things through your day that you're disconnected from technology so you can fan it more.
Mhm.
Even you, of those of you that feel you're pretty good in intuition, I would still do this because a lot of us think
Mhm.
we're good, but then don't realize what it feels like in our bodies. So if you start with those two things, I guarantee you, you're going to start trusting it more, and then reach out to me and we can start looking at ways to start elevating it in harder conversations and harder decision making as you're kind of getting busier and a lot is coming at you during the day. But those two things will be really powerful for the audience, Nico.
Mhm.
But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, once you start doing those two things and you understand the combination of, in this case, chat GPT, AI, and human brilliance, that's just one example of combining human brilliance, intuition with AI, you'll find that you're going to accelerate things more powerfully in your business. When you ignore that one side of you, it's not going to go
Mhm.
far very quickly. And I'm a big believer in that. And I work with powerful leaders that are making a difference and making good money. And when they shift this is just one thing I teach, but when they shift
Yeah.
this, it makes a powerful difference.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's amazing what you're telling us. Thank you very much for all this.
Yeah,
This this is very valuable, people. If you start doing this, I know I've done these things, and then and I'm going to do them again because you kind of forget after a while. It's like, oh yeah, intuition, no problem there. I'm going to do it, blah blah blah. But at the end, you're like, I've started. I've reset myself to do meditations as well. I've been meditating for more than, I don't know, 15 years, I think,
yeah,
and at some point my meditations, they became bland,
yeah,
to call it that way. So
yeah,
there was so much going around in my head
yeah,
that I wasn't meditating anymore. I was thinking.
yeah,
I was explicitly thinking, and
yeah,
started to learn again to look at the breath and, notice the breath and all that stuff. But intuition wise, I've had some wonderful experiences with intuition. So I always say I've always got parking spot. I've always got a parking spot.
yeah,
And some people say, yeah, but that's, what do you call it, a manifestation. I'm like, no, 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 it's purely intuition.
yeah,
Because I drive into a street, I'm going somewhere, and I arrive in the area, and then something tells me turn right or turn left or drive straight ahead, and like 2 seconds later I got a beautiful parking spot. Half the time I don't even have to pay for it because there's still money in the meter, which is crazy. My wife actually asks me to drive with her to shops
yeah.
so that she has a parking spot.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and that is such a good point, and that really brings up another thing. Like, okay, Jennifer, I believe the science. Okay, I see how I can combine it with AI and technology. Get that check. I see how a couple things I can start doing. You need more than those two things, you guys. This is something I
Mhm.
teach because in harder decisions, you don't always trust it, but you got some traction. Now you know what it is and what he just said. But I'm going to tell you guys right now. A lot of people come to me like I'm highly intuitive, and I'm like, well, let's expand that a little bit more. But I'm like, do you actually respond? Did you hear what
Mm.
I just said, everybody? Do you actually respond? What
Yes.
Nico just said, like, hey, my intuition said turn right. And it was something very basic. But you guys, often what we do is we don't trust, after everything we just said, we still don't trust our intuition, whether it be a hard
Mhm.
decision or easy decision like Nico, that just said,
Yeah.
like, turn
Yeah.
right. And you guys, it again, intuition is it's in the feminine space. Okay. We have left and right brain, we have masculine and feminine in us. Intuition is like a light butterfly. It's going to come around like that and say, make
Mhm.
this decision on this investment. And if you don't answer right away, it goes away. If you decide not to turn right, it goes away. It doesn't mean it doesn't come back around, you guys, but if you don't listen, it goes dormant a little bit. So
Mhm.
the key to intuition is not just knowing you have it, but when it says something, you freaking respond. And then what
Yeah.
happens, that ingrains it and it starts opening up other things and other intuitive opportunities for you. So it's really this subtle space that, the difference between people that really find intuition powerfully is they act on it, and you have to act on it immediately. And one thing I will say that comes up a lot, Nico, with business owners is, whether it be internal things in their business or external things like 2020 that
Yeah.
affect their business, we get in what I call that emotional dysregulation. Right.
Hmm.
One of the things that I will say, a lot of people ask me is like, can I really trust my intuition during really hard times, Jennifer, when I'm just feeling mentally, emotionally in a turmoil, dysregulated, a lot is going on with me or my team or whatever. And I will say this, you guys, that is possible, but you do need to know how to shift. And that's something I specialize in too. And I know I've chatted with you about, Nico, is
Hmm.
knowing how to shift yourself into a mentally emotional state that works for you to move kind of the saran wrap off so you can be in alignment in your space again to access not just intuition, but other things that you are going to need during adversity and change. And you guys, this
Hmm.
is hugely important, not just for
Yeah.
intuition, but any area and aspect in your life where you're having that mental emotional kind of turmoil. You cannot forget intuition. You cannot make powerful decisions, be healthy, high performer, be productive when you have mental emotional turmoil. It creates this, like, you're in this kind of mucky water,
Mhm.
and you can't make powerful decisions or write good content and be productive. So one thing that I encourage people to always do, if we're talking about intuition right now, but in any aspect, if we're trying to tap into something, you do have to be aware first, are you in a space right now that you can tap into something powerful, whether it
Mhm.
be intuition or other things. If not, there's a lot of tools I teach to shift you into a mental emotional state that works for you and not against you. One of the greatest things I heard from a neuroscientist, I think it was on Lewis Howes's podcast, and I would agree, and it's something I teach on. He asked Lewis Howes, asked this guy that works on the brain and the body and is a neurosurgeon and also does a lot with mind and body and soul and
Mhm.
emotional states. And he said the number one thing that people need to master to become successful is emotional regulation. I couldn't agree
Yeah,
more.
that's
And I know
right.
I'm going a little on a tangent because we're talking about intuition, you guys, but the way to get into an intuitive space, the way to become a powerful leader, the way to make powerful decisions, the way to make a powerful life, the way to be abundant, the way to manifest, the way to get the people that you want on your team, the way to get through adversity when it comes, yada, yada, yada. You guys, is knowing how to move and shift your mental emotional state, become emotionally regulated. When you
Mhm.
take that saran wrap off and you get back here in your lane, intuition, among all other things, start ramping up again at accelerated rates. There's spaces and knowing, and I have a lot of tools and frameworks that help people do that because let's just be honest, Nico, all of
Mhm.
us is always going to go around the corner. Another adversity is going to come. Another
Yeah.
challenge is going to come. As leaders, I'm going to be honest, you guys, we're going to have problems come at us at an accelerated rate. Why? Because we're growing a purpose. We're growing a mission. And you
True.
better every day of the week and twice on Sunday know how to be aware when you're not in a good space mentally, emotionally, and knowing the tools to get back in your lane so you can not only express intuition, but all the other things that you want to get done that day. And I teach so many frameworks around that to do that. And it's something leaders are finding that is
Mhm.
vital and now are aware how important it is. And I would 100% agree with that neuroscientist. Knowing how to mentally, emotionally regulate will not only help intuition, but help you live the life you desire as a leader and the impact you want to create and feel
Mhm.
good doing it all the time.
Yeah, yeah. Is there something like a really simple technique that you know that usually works for the most people to just go back into
Yeah,
that balanced
yeah,
state? Because I've had a couple of days now that I have been emotionally imbalanced.
yeah,
I was sick, so that doesn't help either. But in any case, what I've learned in those couple of days is go back into silence. Really say, okay, my body is indicating that it needs rest. It's indicating that something is wrong. You still probably hear a little bit in my voice.
yeah,
But in any case, it's like I always say for myself, it helps to go into silence. And I don't mean a meditation. I mean silence,
yeah,
sitting and just being.
yeah,
And that brings me back into a certain point where all the emotions, they're still there,
yeah,
but they're not. I am not the emotions.
yeah, yeah,
They're just with me,
yeah,
and I react
yeah,
as if they are with me. A little bag on my back saying, "Hey." this hurts and that hurts and that and blah blah blah. But I'm like, yeah, cool,
Yeah.
okay, okay, you
No,
can be there.
this is a great conversation. I will say this. There's a couple things I will say on this. I love that you
Yeah,
do that. I
thank
think
you.
that's really powerful. First and foremost, everyone, I want you to understand that at the end of the day, I have coaches, and the reason why I mention that is when I was navigating my way through my own depression, anxiety, and learning tools and techniques to shift myself in a
Hmm.
higher integrity when life got lifey. I ultimately needed a coach. And the reason why I mention that, everyone, a lot of us, and I'm going to mention some tools that can be helpful, but at the end of the day, it's
Hmm.
awareness, checking off, am I still struggling?
Hmm.
Sometimes when we're in a space where some old traumas are being triggered, old behaviors that are wired from a time in our life where we had to go through something, and now our belief system is just wired to that no matter how hard we try. Even if we cognitively know it doesn't make sense, our pattern continues. A lot of
Yeah,
times there is coaching, counseling, facilitation that is needed to break free from that, to create a
yeah.
new rewiring, a new patterning where your body and brain feel safe in a new behavior because it doesn't know anything unlike that. So I'm a big believer, you guys. That's how I moved into a powerful space that I've been in, no matter how much I did on my own. There's a lot of coaching frameworks out there that I teach, that a lot of coaches teach, that can help you if some of these tools that we're going to give you don't keep you there long term, because we want you to live in a healthy vitality life, and it's all about
Mm.
awareness. So at the end of the day, there might need to be some deeper techniques that I teach or other counselors, coaches can teach to help you rewire and create that healthy high performance, the vitality that you deserve. With
Mhm.
that said, there are, Nico, so many powerful techniques out there, from somatic techniques, breath work techniques,
Yeah.
meditation techniques, yoga techniques, move, all that stuff. And they're all have scientific backing around them. What I'd
Mhm.
say with all those, again, this is why coaching is really effective. It's not going to be effective for you, what the balance and the equation might be of what you do
Mhm.
versus me, but trying something. And again, you guys, awareness. Did it seem to be helpful? Audit at the end
Indeed.
of the day. So I'm kind of building up here, you guys, but I'm just doing that for a reason. As far as the techniques I would have and give to your listeners, I think what you just said is in silence and being present,
Mhm.
super powerful, Nico. The other thing I would absolutely mention to people is when you're feeling kind of, mentally not well, if you're, and then you have an emotion attached to that, remember, your emotion is an expression, a feeling is an expression of your current mental state. So if
Mhm.
you're in depression, maybe an emotional thing you might be feeling is anxious or tension or low energy. Whatever it is that you're feeling, it's acknowledging the mental thing that you're feeling. You guys, I'm a
Mhm.
big believer in that. Okay. So it's acknowledging, I'm feeling this. And you guys, there's no shame in whatever you're feeling, whether it's a slightly negative emotion, negative belief, or a big one. Like, I don't want to be, doing this anymore. I'm done, or whatever. And just
Mhm.
being honest with that, or you're just struggling with something, really writing it down. Then you want to write down, what emotion are you feeling with that? So for me, I mean, example, when I first opened my practice in 2008 crash, I remember I would have mentally, I'm like, I don't know if I can do this, if I'm smart enough to do this. And I wrote that
Mhm.
down, and I wrote down the emotion behind it. I'm feeling anxious because I feel like I'm not smart enough to do this. And it's 2008 crash. So I purged all of that. You guys, when you start journaling about that, what happens is it opens up the creative zones in your brain for solutions just by purging it, not
Mm.
repressing it, not going, oh, I shouldn't think that. You're thinking it. So let it come out. Whether
Mm.
it's truth or not, just letting it come out, purging it and writing it down. What you're mentally thinking and the emotion behind it. Okay. What starts happening when you start purging it, often, everyone, it not only makes you feel better because you're purging it, but you start getting creative ideas of, oh, here's a solution to get me out of that. Oh, I am smart enough because I just came up with a solution to help me with that part in my business, right?
Yeah.
So that's helpful. That can be just, you guys, a 5 to 7 minute journaling. I'm not saying you have to do it for 30 minutes. Okay. That's the
Mhm.
next thing I would do. And then the next thing I would do after that, and this is the last piece, this will help you move that emotion through. I'm always going to say emotion is the gatekeeper to changing the mental belief and behaviors. I don't start with mindset. You guys, I actually don't believe you ever start with mindset. I'm going to challenge
Okay.
that thought process.
Okay, nice. Yeah.
Start with emotions. You've written
Good.
it down, the mental part, what you're believing, the mindset you have, the emotion behind it, the way
Mhm.
you reverse engineer. Now you're getting creative ideas to a solution. The way you reverse engineer that is you take the emotion That's the saran wrap, the gatekeeper that now we need to move through. So now you can open Pandora's box and start the frameworks to change the mindset and belief that started it all, that gave the emotion. But you got to reverse and engineer by starting to move the emotion through. So the last piece I'd give to you guys is move that crap through.
Hmm.
Dancing, squatting, jumping up and down. You guys, it's just like food. It is energy. And food digests through your body, right? And it gives you energy
True.
for things. Emotions have energy too. We all know it does because it gives us the feelings in our body. That's energy.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
by doing something that feels good to do, intuition. What feels good to do right now to help me move this through? I love to dance, so I'll dance for a minute. You guys, this stuff I'm giving you is not an hour long. I just told you,
Hmm.
like, think of the belief, write down the behavior, purge it out. You probably get some creative stuff. Oh my gosh, I can do this. Now let's get that residual, that emotion out, whatever it is. Maybe it's anxiety. And I dance it through for a minute. You guys, this is less than 10-minute exercise. And it will
Absolutely.
help you a little bit, if not a lot, move your emotional state up. You've
Hmm.
already gotten some creative ideas. Okay, some traction. I can start moving this through. You start creating that momentum for the day. Now, again, some deeper rooted behaviors and beliefs. That's why I believe in coaching. There's deeper frameworks that are often needed, everyone, that are
Hmm.
with rooted in beliefs and behaviors that have been there for a while. This at least
Hmm.
create traction. I'm always going to say this. You guys hear me out. I don't believe in starting with the belief and behavior. The mindset stuff is gone. Why I say that, it doesn't mean you won't gain traction, but if you don't start with the emotion, I just gave you a movement and move that
Yeah.
through, it'll be really hard for you to break free on changing, quote, the mindset. Because I'm not ripping on mindset people. I love mindset stuff, but the order in which you do it is completely changing because we're understanding the chemistry of the body. I am a practitioner by trade. I always talk about chemistry of the mind and body to work for you and not against you. And if you want your mind to change a belief about something, I had to change it on my 2008 practice. Can I do this? All this, I had to change my emotion. And I changed my
Hmm.
emotion first by moving that stuff through. I had to get a coach to get the frameworks to go a little deeper. But when you shift your emotional state and move that stuff through, then some of this other stuff that we start working on starts changing. We can look at the belief and the behavior behind that isn't aligned with where you want to go and go from there. But that's what
Yeah.
I would give people besides that silence piece. I love that piece, Nico. It's something I do as well. This will create traction, everyone. Again, if you're not noticing that you're seeing a lot of change after a week of doing this might be where we need to look at some deeper help and coaching.
Yeah.
Because
Indeed.
something I talk about all the time is shifting your mental emotional state and creating healthy high performance for your purpose and mission, no matter the environment. But at the end of
Hmm.
the day, those are techniques I would give people to start creating traction. Start with your emotional state. Take what that neuroscience said as the expert that's been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
Emotional regulation is key. It's the gatekeeper for all the other behavioral changes that you want to make. And that's going to help your nervous system to start feeling safe in a new decision. That's another thing I talk a lot about is nervous system regulation. And it starts
Hmm.
by moving that emotion through and getting your body and brain and your nervous system on board to believe a new behavior is actually going to work. And I'm
Hmm.
giving you guys a lot of information, but at the end of the day, if you even just start with shifting the emotional state with this technique I just gave you, you start probably seeing a little bit of something in traction, which will give you
Yeah.
confidence and move you forward.
Yeah. Well, it is the whole point, isn't it? It is starting with basic steps and doing those daily
Yeah,
or twice daily or every 2 days.
yeah,
But it's important to start doing it. And one of the most amazing frameworks that I've learned these days is compounding is continuously doing the small things that create so much and such a big change in your life.
yeah,
Like you said, Jennifer, with the writing down, it doesn't have to take a half an hour to explain what's happening, what's going on in your mind, because that's what I used to do. I had a book, I opened it up, started writing like crazy,
yeah,
and this is happening. Somebody at some point told me, yeah, you have to write everything down and then burn it. I'm like, okay, let's do that. And I started burning. I think it was kind of the same situation. I was in depression or burnout, one of the two, and I was looking for all kinds of techniques and stuff like that. And I started writing, and at some point, your wrists start aching and you're not even thinking about it anymore because everything aches in that direction. But it didn't help. And it's where what you're saying is with the emotion comes in.
mhm,
It is sitting in that emotion, really sitting down and saying, okay, this is it. I actually this morning I had what I used to call panic attacks. I'm
Mm,
clear on this.
yeah,
What I used to call panic
yeah,
attacks. Now it's a blessing.
yeah.
It's actually a changing frequency for me. It's something that says, "Hey, you've gone to a next level." It's like in gaming, you know. You get little, see little Mario jumping up and
Right.
saying with these beautiful stars. But what I've noticed is that those emotions, they're just emotions,
Yeah,
they're your body saying something, indeed,
yeah,
and then you use that.
yeah.
It's not something you just leave left or right and start pushing down or whatever. I've learned to use them as
100%.
power, like you're saying, their energy, and you
Right.
do stuff with this.
It's
Yeah.
it's funny you should say that because it's so true. It's funny. My one of my biggest programs when leaders come work with me is a high frequency leader, and
Hmm.
shifting through the emotions that allow you to be at your highest frequency. You guys, we're not going to knock it out of the park every day. We're not going to feel
Of
great
course
every
not.
day. We're going to have certain emotions, but when you learn how to shift and move through emotions and that they're there to help you, but knowing the right tools to move through them and to then get into your highest frequency is absolutely a superpower. And I do absolutely believe that. There's so many tools that I teach, and it sounds like you do too, Nico, that shift people into a higher frequency so you can
Hmm.
be in that evolution of you that's supposed to be you majority of the day. But knowing that these emotions are going to come up, and when you can kind of laugh at them and lean into them with the right tools and go, okay, I see you, an old pattern. But
Yeah.
what Nico just said is true. What I find when I go to the next level, whether it be growth in my business or a personal development, or I'm, navigating a different area of my life, you guys, new level, new devil. You're going to have
Yeah,
different problems,
absolutely.
different challenges. But the good thing is, you guys, as you're going to that new level, remember with all these tools we're talking about, you're in a better, more higher level expanded state. So I talk often about
Hmm.
the nervous system, that you have a contraction, relaxation to its state. When you challenge it and you go to a new level, it contracts and relaxes. It's still doing that, but it's doing this. You guys, I don't know if you can see it, but
Yeah.
it's like this big circle and it keeps getting bigger and bigger, and your bandwidth for
Hmm.
different problems, more challenges, new challenges actually increases. So now you can be like, okay, there's a new problem, but I know the tools. I'm at a different state, so I know I can handle this challenge. What tool do I have? What coach can
Indeed.
I have to help me navigate this and move through this in a supportive way? But at the end of the day, you're going to have a new challenge with a new level, and those emotions are going to be there. You guys, getting healthier, going to that new level of you doesn't mean you get rid of hard emotions. Doesn't mean you get rid of
Yes.
problems. It means you actually have sometimes more intense emotions and more intense problems. What hopefully you guys are learning from this is that, through coaching and other techniques, you can shift back into a powerful high frequency state when you know how to work your mind and body in a brilliant way. And it's something I teach a
Mhm.
lot on. Yeah, we teach systems and frameworks on productivity and performance, but at the end of the day, that's 10% of what we do in our programs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why? Because the 80% is what we're talking about right now, is teaching yourself and your team to be able to navigate through some of this stuff with new levels of greatness and new challenges to get back into your lane, move through the emotion, and be at that highest frequency for yourself and your team. And when that happens, you guys, like I said, game over. Your team and you become unstoppable. I mean, as
Mhm.
an influential leader myself, and I teach that in my program, how you can use your frequency to become a better influence with integrity. And this is part of it, you guys, is knowing how to
Yeah.
shift yourself and then teaching others to do the same. And then some of these other things that we can do as influential leaders with our words and our actions become really easy. And people naturally want to be influenced by us because we're in a frequency that they are aligned with. So
Hmm.
this stuff is really super important, you guys. If you're like, I want to make more money, I want to create more productivity, I want to create more impact, I want to be in vitality, I want my team to be in vitality, I want to have a good team culture. I'll say to all of you, shift your state. Learn how
Yeah.
to shift your emotional state and get in a good frequency. And all the other things I can teach you get really, really easy to do. All the things I just mentioned. If you want all
Yeah.
that, you
Absolutely.
can have all that. But it requires you to understand how the brain, the body chemistry work, how to shift yourself into a powerful state and be in a frequency that works for you and not against you.
Mm, it's beautiful. Well, that's one of the things that I've noticed in all the years that I've done the personal development story and leadership and so on. It started off with Seven Habits of Highly Effective People from
Yeah,
Stephen Covey. I think it's for a lot of people.
great book.
That's the base of the base stuff. But it explains a lot of very rational frameworks.
Yeah.
It does align a little bit with the emotional part.
Yeah.
But then on the other side, I was working with a couple of secret societies, basically, that have you use a more spiritual
Yeah.
aspect of the story. For instance, tarot, the cards, but not to make any predictions or whatever. Nothing to do with that. But they taught us to look at a certain card and start analyzing that card. And by focusing on the image, you started to create a completely different story in yourself, and
Yeah.
started understanding where is this coming from and that coming from. And it's another technique of changing the frequency, shifting yourself into a completely different story, and that combined with something really rational, something really
Yeah.
irrational, basically, because somebody who's telling you to watch a picture for
Right.
I think it was a statement. They said you had to do it 3 minutes, no, 3 days, 6 minutes, and you had 9 truths.
Wow. Yeah.
That's so you write down 9 things that you've noticed while doing this.
Mm.
And it was amazing. It's kind of a journaling and opening up your mind to
Yeah.
those ideas. And I got a couple of great ideas coming out of that. And
That's
it was
awesome.
like, this is like you got enough cards to look at in any case.
Yeah.
But it's a different way and different perspective
Yeah.
of switching and going for what is leadership and what is needed to go further than the basic stuff that you get out of books,
Yeah.
because books are wonderful,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I read tons of them. I'm an addicted personal development reader. My wife actually has to push in one of those romances books in between to change my mind that to do other things. But basically, it's only the beginning. You read a book, it's only the beginning, and it's what you yourself start learning by all these techniques, all the coaching, all the mentorship and all that stuff,
Mhm.
that changes and makes you a good leader. Because when I'm in a meeting room with my team, I am quiet, I shut up, I don't say a
Yeah.
word. Last 10 minutes, I will be talking and asking questions and making decisions,
Yeah.
because that's what they want. They're the experts talking about what they need to do, hip, 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 hip,
Yeah.
and this and that. And we're going there and there and there. And there. And at the end, they're going to look at the corner. The corner of the table is like, hey, Nick, what are we going to do? And I'm like, well, I need to know this. I need to know this. I need to know this. Usually it's like, what's the risk? What's the amount of impact that we're making? And how long is it going to take?
Yeah.
It's really simple questions, and then you stay quiet, they talk to you, and you make the decision.
Yeah.
And that's leadership, because you're at a frequency where you absorb,
Yeah.
and you don't need to. It is pure, it's basically intuition that starts working at that point.
I think that's it's such a good point because what backing what you said about the cards and everything. So, like I said about AI alone, I mean, the
Indeed.
creative zone of the human brain is so brilliant, you guys. We could go on a whole nother podcast about that. I mean, there's 100 billion nerve connections in your brain. There's 100,000 miles of blood vessels in your brain. I mean, it's absolutely amazing, and there's a lot of techniques to engage it more powerfully that not only help in so many areas of your life to be creative in, but leadership. And
Mhm.
so I love that piece that you mentioned. A lot of times we look at frameworks of leadership, and I talk a lot about influential leadership, and I don't even talk about some of the foundational leadership anymore. I talk about things that you're talking about that
Mhm.
engage and pull out your unique leadership. But the other piece I will say, you guys, leaders, the good leaders, barely say things, or they say things in a short period of time
Mhm.
that most would take hours to say. You become a potent, I'm kind of going on a tangent, but you become a potent with your words. You become articulate with your words. I'm a
Mhm.
speaker, and I do a lot of speaking now. And I always say the good speakers can say in 15 minutes what when most people say in 45 minutes. And it's partly what you just said. So whether you're a speaker on stage or you're in a staff meeting, we have two ears for a reason. And it's also
Mhm.
that listening and being present, going back to Nico's talking about just being quiet and present. When you be quiet, okay, even as a leader, you get a lot of information. It opens up creative zones. It opens up your emotional intelligence. It opens up your intuition because you're listening and watching and being aware of what your team is saying. And that is going
Mhm.
to help you then respond in a potent, short way that allows
Mhm.
you to do the right thing. Now, I will say this as leaders, remember this, you guys, there's a reason why you have a team. The great leaders, most of the great leaders I know, don't know majority of the things of their business. And I don't
That's
mean,
true.
and I'm going to say this, you guys, I don't mean they don't know how to do all the things of their business. You guys, I don't mean they don't have a vision mission. What I mean by it is I look at Henry Ford. okay, that built cars. Okay, did you know when he
Yeah.
first got passionate about that, he knew nothing about cars. He didn't know how to make them. He didn't know what was efficient. Nothing. You know what? He's a great leader. He hired, recruited people that had specialties in different areas of manufacturing freaking cars. You guys, and
Mhm.
the rest is history, right? So my
Yeah.
point is, if you look at good leaders, okay, they're doing a lot of listening. They're doing a
Mhm.
lot of creative mission. Ford had a mission of what he, in listening, creating, probably did cards like what you were talking about. They're doing a lot in the background of creating the mission, the vision. What can they pull out and bring to the table as a leader? What creatively can they bring out in the mission of creating the cars with Ford
Yeah.
in this case? And then they bring in the right freaking people as a leader that know how to do it, and then they listen. They're like, yes, let's do that. Yes, let's do that. So that's huge, you guys. So we've kind of come full circle with a lot of things that we're talking about, is that the good
Absolutely.
leaders at the end of the day, like I said, intuition's been around for billions of years since humans have been around.
Mhm.
Creative zones of human minds have been around since billions of years. Meditation, being quiet and present, has been around for millions of years. The good
Mhm.
leaders understand that no matter what they do foundationally as good leaders, no matter what you guys think is good foundationally as leaders, at the end of the day, it comes down to your unique leadership style, tapping into that, doing things like Nico said to create that creative zone to actually amp up as a leader, and learning to listen and pull in the right people to make your mission become alive. And that's going to require you to get present. It's going to require you to be in a good emotional state. It's going to require you to get in your creative zone, to look at your mission and vision. It's going to require all that. And when you do that, then settling in and listening to your team, settling and listening into what decisions to make will get really, really easy, and allow you to say what you need to say at the right time, to direct the traffic, to get your team to do what you know you need to do in the world, and get the mission out there that you want to get out there. Amen.
Amen. Wow, that's a finish line right there. Thank you very much for all the tips you've given us, Jennifer. You really, really made it come through for bringing the value to the podcast.
Thank you.
I got one more question for you at this time because we're kind of rounding it up at the moment. So, you've talked about a lot of programs, a lot of frameworks, a lot of tools that you use. Where can people find you so they can, there's probably a couple of people saying, I want to talk to this woman.
Oh, yeah, I'm the most active on LinkedIn and Instagram. So LinkedIn is Jennifer Watson. He can put in the show notes. It's sometimes hard to find me because Jennifer Watson is such a common name, but it's Jennifer
Mm,
Watson. You can look at the link in the show notes on that. And then on Instagram, it's the Jennifer Watson. I answer my own DMs. You guys, if you are interested in connecting with me, have questions on about this podcast, or interested in, looking at an opportunity to get supported by me. I love to work with epic leaders that are wanting to create a purpose and mission and expand it to the world in a more powerful way and be healthy and vital doing it. So we can have a conversation on that, but definitely DM me and we can look at just connecting and seeing how I can support you. I'm onboarding right now for some one-on-ones as well as my group program. So if you guys are interested, definitely don't hesitate to reach out to me. And again, if you're just questioning a little bit more on this episode, we can really make sure that we're connecting to the right people if it's not me. I have a huge
yeah,
network of people that are epic and doing their own epic things. And I'm a big person in collaborating, connecting, because we all need support. I have coaches. I have a
yeah.
bunch of different coaches. So it just helps us all really navigate to the next level. So there you go.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Cool. So everybody knows where to find you. Everybody knows that you bring a lot of good stuff to the table. So thank you very much for your time on this podcast, Jennifer. I know you have an amazingly busy schedule, and you just popped in some moments for us to talk to you. I am so grateful, as I am grateful to the listeners for being here today. So thank you very much. And everybody will hear you next time. Bye bye. Thank you for listening to the Everlasting Podcast. Let me leave you with a few questions to answer in the comments. How do you see the different topics we discussed during this interview? What are your thoughts? What stood out for you? Let us know in the comments or just send us your feedback. We launch new episodes weekly. Don't miss any by ensuring you are subscribed to the show. Click the follow button now. We depend on the organic growth of the podcast to inspire more and more people. So by giving us a 5-star review, and sharing this episode with at least one of your friends who might be interested in the subject, you will significantly help more people become inspired. But more than anything, I am grateful to you for taking the time to listen to the show. If you are also a successful CEO, founder, or entrepreneur who has inspiring words to say, feel free to contact us for an interview at contact@nicovandevenne.com. Thank you for listening. We will see you again soon with more inspirational conversations on achieving everlasting fulfillment.